Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you for reminding yourself that you can bring greatness out of, nothing. Beautiful. So, Don, what a great start for you today on
Beautiful.
your topic. And you've got, let's see, 98 wonderful carpenter agents with you. And we're so
Fantastic.
grateful for you this morning. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's
your
a pleasure
gift
to
to
be
all
here.
of us.
Thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and share the screen if that's okay, and we'll get started.
Okay. I might have to make you the host. Do I? No, I
Uh,
guess I don't. Okay,
yeah,
great.
we're good. Okay, well, good morning again, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with you this morning. And our topic for today is a focus on referrals, how we can maximize our referral potential. And we've actually got 5 ideas for you today that will maybe pretty simple, very straightforward concepts that will allow us to take full advantage of the opportunity for referrals. Of course, we all know that referrals are the lifeblood of any real estate business, and it's so much easier. Our business is a lot more fun when the referrals are coming in. And how about a mindset thing, a gratitude thing here right from the beginning? So it's been a busy year for a lot of realtors. For many of you on this call, it's been your best year ever. There have been certainly months in this year where Carpenter Real Estate has set all-time records for numbers of transactions. So we do have a lot to be grateful for. By the same token, a lot of times I have conversation with realtors. I'll say, well, how's it going? And they'll say, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I've got all this business. I don't know if I'm coming or going, and I'm working 12 hours a day and da, da, da. And I say, wait a minute. How about a moment of gratitude for that busyness? What realtors sometimes want to talk about is all the stress associated with these transactions. And I think, no, in my experience, stress in real estate comes when you have no transactions, not when you've got too many. So let's make sure that we send the right energy out into the world there related to our ability to attract referrals. So if you haven't already, it might not be a bad idea if you just press the mute on your microphone. That way we won't pick up background noise from other folks. So that'd be fantastic. Okay. Well, one of the things that is a potential concern in all things real estate is the possibility of burnout. And that's that mindset that says I've got to be available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We don't think that's necessary. So let's make sure that we're avoiding burnout and build a smart business instead. And so a couple of comments about a smart real estate business. We want to make sure that we're building a business that works in all market cycles, not just when there's low inventory or not just when it's a seller's market. And also, we want to be able to perform in this business for a long time. And way too many people get started and get into bad patterns of working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then it's not sustainable over time. So we want to focus on high net income per hour, not just high income, so that you can have a life. We don't think 24 hours a day is necessary. And one of the ways that we can avoid this concept of burnout is to build a business based on relationships, not on transactions. And we see a lot of people in our business day. In fact, our industry, in some cases, kind of reinforces this idea that we are in a transactional type business. We like the comments from Simon Sinek from an Inman conference from a couple of years ago. He says, invest in relationships. They're your most valuable asset. And the tendency here sometimes, folks, is to just go from transaction to transaction, worrying about the details of those deals. And we tend to put the people that are involved in those transactions in second place. So the message here, related to referrals is referrals come from people, they don't come from transactions. So let's make sure that we have the right priority there. How about this? For kind of an ideal real estate business in terms of where your transactions come from, right? How about this? How about break it down into thirds? About a third of your business would come from repeat and people that are in your database. All right. So this database of relationships, about a third of my business is going to come from there. How about this one? A third of them come from referrals from that database, or friends and family members that have the potential to refer you. And then a third would come as a result of the transactions that you do. So this concept that my next transaction is embedded in the current transaction. So if we can have a pattern kind of like that, we're going to be in pretty good shape. Now, we may have shown you this a couple of times before, but worth repeating to set up how we can focus on referrals and where referrals actually come from. So the Zillow organization did a study a couple, I guess it was about 4 years ago now, and they studied a number of households, 13,000 households in the U.S., all owner occupied, and they asked those people, did your realtor contact you after the closing? Nearly 3/4 of those respondents said, I never heard from my realtor again after they sold me the house. Only 20% said they have occasional contact, and 6% of those folks said they have any kind of regular contact with their realtor after the closing. Folks, this is where real estate gets really hard, when realtors have a mindset that says, I'm just going to move on, to the next transaction. So let's make sure that we have a plan to stay in touch with folks. That's really the point. So this was a guy that made a presentation at the Colorado Real Estate Convention a couple of years ago. His name is Lee Cockrell, and he used to work for the Disney organization. He had a great story about customer service and those kinds of things. And he made a comment to the realtors in the crowd there that he and his wife had moved 11 times since they'd been married, and they never once had a realtor follow up with them after the closing. And his comment was, I don't really understand your business. If you want referrals, then we might want to consider the possibility that we would stay in touch with the people that we've done transactions with. Unfortunately, this is it's an easy concept to talk about, but in the real world, things get busy and we get distracted. And so here's a focus that we often hear and we observe from the realtor community, and that is, I've got these people that bought a house from me, fantastic, they're good to go for a while. Where's my next deal? Where's my next transaction? Of course, nothing wrong with looking for the next transaction. We all do that. The question is, where do we look, and how do we be the most effective that we can be in that area? So we like more of a relationship mindset rather than a transaction mindset with Ninja, and it's a focus on referrals. And so here's the simple version of this, is that a lot of people look at their database as the place where these people are potentially going to move, and so I want to make sure that I'm the one who helps them. You might have 200 or 250 people in your database, and that's great. That'll work fine. But what we really want to do is leverage the database. And here's what we know, that every person in your database knows at least 4 people who are going to move in the next 12 months. And the idea is, how can I set myself up so that I can be seen as the source of real estate information, and those people will think of me first when it's time to help a neighbor or a friend with a real estate transaction. So that database all of a sudden isn't just 200 households, it's really 200 times 4, because all those people next year are going to know 4 people who need to move. And of course, we get this data from Harris Interactive, and they've repeated this study over and over again. So we can count on the idea that everybody in our database knows at least 4 people are going to move. So we're talking about referrals today and how to maximize the potential for referrals. This is how we really leverage that database. So Lee Cockrell says, I interview executives on a regular basis coming into the Disney organization. If any realtor would have stayed in touch, I could have made their career. And what we always like to point out in this story is that, you know what, we all just have to admit it, excuse me, unless you're brand new to real estate, every one of us on this call has a Lee Cockrell type person in our database. Someone we sold a house to, someone that we helped them sell their house, and we got busy, forgot to put them in our database, don't have a database, lost track of them, and it's a missed opportunity. So here's what I'd like to suggest. If you want to jot this down as an action item for the month of December, you need something to do, all right? Here's the month of December. You go through your database, all right, and you look at all of the people that you've sold houses to for the last 3 years, all right? Go last 3 years and make sure that every one of those people is in your database and that you have some kind of a plan to stay in touch with those people and make a phone call in the next 2 weeks to just wish them a happy holiday season, ask a couple of forward questions about how their family is, how they like the house since they moved in, and just reconnect with people because it's the holiday season and it's the perfect time to have an excuse to call people that maybe you have lost touch with. That'd be a great thing to do over the next couple of months. Okay, all right. So here we go. Here's our topic for today: 5 things we can do to maximize the potential for referrals. All right. The first one is to focus on relationships, and we'll have a couple of reminders about that. The second one is one of the keys to getting referrals is to make sure that people know that we will make them look good if they refer us. And we'll talk about the strategy behind that in just a minute. If we want more referrals, we have to really engage in this concept of fabled service, going beyond the idea of just getting people to the closing table and provide a memorable level of service that they'll want to tell other people about. The next one is, consistency in how we do our business really does have a lot to do with referral potential. So a process here is what's critical, being on purpose and not on accident. And then the fifth one is some actual on-purpose strategies to be able to thank people appropriately for referrals and then make sure that we follow up throughout the process. All right, so let's jump in. Here are 5 simple ideas on how to maximize our referrals. And I think, folks, if we really dig into these, it will take our business to a next level of professionalism that'll really help us. All right. So here's the idea. A relationship mindset rather than a transactional mindset is idea number 1. We think most referrals come because there's a relationship that's been built with another human being, and those relationships come from this word flow. And flow is a ninja term that's defined as frequency of interaction. And you can see the various types of strategies to build relationships right there on the screen. We think it's the lifeblood of any real estate business. So, maybe a question we can ask ourselves is, do we have a plan to stay in touch with people on some kind of a regular basis? And, if you're just starting out in your real estate business, what we need to understand is that this concept of flow, or having a plan to stay in touch with people, it really does fix everything else in our business, because if the leads and referrals are coming in, everything else can pretty much take care of itself. So here's a book for you. If you'd like to, this is a quick read, really less than 2 hours, but we really like this book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, simplifies the process. This fits right in with the ninja concept. If you haven't checked this one out, we'd encourage you to do so. It really does simplify the process of what we need to do to make sure we have ongoing referrals. All right, so that's a good one. So the best way that we can stay in flow or in relationship with people who know us, like us, and trust us is this thing known as the Ninja 9. These are 9 simple ideas that will generate more leads and referrals, and they have to do with being face-to-face or on the phone. So we'll do just a quick review. Most of you on the call have heard this from us many times before, but let's run through quickly as a reminder. So number 1 is to focus on gratitude. That's a mindset. It sends out the right energy. We all have a vibe or an energy that goes out, into the world every time we step out. And we want that energy to be something that will attract people, into our real estate business. We think a focus on what we're grateful for, kind of like our conversation before we started this morning, is the best way to have the right energy. So number 2 on the Ninja 9 is to focus on your calendar and stay on your agenda. One of the things that happens to realtors sometimes is that in a truly well-meaning effort to serve our clients, we actually end up turning our calendar over to our clients, and then they become in charge of our schedule. And we don't think that's good. So a couple of times a day, we need to time block and set some time aside for us to be able to get the stuff done that allows us to grow our business. And this is a simple concept that says for an hour and a half in the morning, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set aside 60 to 90 minutes so that I can perform my Ninja 9 activities. I can stay in touch and make my calls, do all the stuff we're talking about here, so that you have the potential to get referrals by staying in touch. But what happens is, and some realtors are going through this right now, we've got a lot of transactions. We're trying to finish the year strong. And so we're focused on transactions. And then we'll get those transactions closed by the end of December. We'll look up, all of a sudden it's January 3rd or 4th. We've got no business because we were trying to close everything at the end of the year. So that creates this porpoise effect of ups and downs, peaks and valleys that are so typical of a realtor's life, and that's not good. So if we can block out a little bit of time in our schedule to stay in touch with folks, we can have ongoing leads and referrals. That would be really good. Part of that is to take some time to write some personal notes. We recommend 2 a day. That takes less than 10 minutes. But that's one of those that's easy to do and easy not to do. So in this time blocking in the morning, we can write some notes, focus on a hot list. That's a really simple concept that allows us to be focused. And it's just a list of people who are going to be doing business with us in the next 90 days. Have a warm list as well. A warm list is primarily people that have change going on in their life that could result in a need for them to change their real estate maybe later on, 4 to 6 months down the road. Folks, this is a subtle concept, but incredibly powerful. And I would make a second recommendation of what to do in the month of December, and that is take your database, get it organized, get the addresses and phone numbers up to date, and then take a review of that list of people who know you and try to identify people who have some kind of change going on. Maybe there's a job change, maybe they've added people to their family, getting married, getting divorced, maybe there's been a death in the family. Changes generally will be an indicator of a future real estate transaction. So that's the warm list. And these are the top 5. We suggest we do those every day. And then we've got the other 4 of the Ninja 9, our customer service calls. These are our client calls that we make with current buyers and sellers under contract, recently closed. These are the birthday calls, the wedding anniversaries, those sorts of things. Let's make sure we set time aside in the morning to do those. Amazing if we just make the calls and check in with people and ask a few forward questions about their family or their job or their what they're doing for fun over the holidays, what their hopes and dreams are for next year. It's amazing how those kinds of phone calls will identify change in people's lives, and that's where the referrals can come from. Number 7 is our real estate reviews, and this is the perfect time of year for real estate reviews. Let people know at the end of the year about real estate activity in their neighborhood, their area of town, and give them an idea about the current value of their home. There'll be many people who think that this pandemic has caused economic turmoil, which it has. But interestingly enough, it has not caused turmoil in the real estate market. And people need to know that their property values are going up in most cases. Number 8 on the Ninja 9 is 50 live contacts a week. We call it 50 live interviews, asking these 4 questions: family, occupation, recreation, dreams, listening for change. I don't know what it is, folks. I can't tell you the science behind it. Don't understand that, but there is something about having contact with at least 50 people in a 7-day period of time. It's enough contact that seems to generate leads and referrals. It's really good. By the way, those 50 live contacts don't just have to be with people in your database. Many of those 50 live contacts come about a part of your daily routine, a part of your daily interaction with other people. If we start keeping track, it's fairly easy to get to 50 live contacts. And then we want to make sure that we update our database so that we can have a chance to stay in touch with people. All right, so that's the Ninja 9. That's the best way that we can think of to stay in flow, stay in relationship with folks. And here's the good news. Hey, what does it cost out of your pocket to do all 9 of those items? The only one that I can think that actually costs money is to send out a few personal notes, buy a few stamps. But the most part, building relationships just takes time, energy, and a little bit of a commitment that we want to get to know people. All right. So we think that's a great strategy compared to spending thousands of dollars a month trying to generate internet leads or something like that. All right. So the Ninja 9 is about relationships. Particularly, we want to put some extra emphasis this morning on these customer service calls for the month of December. It gives you an opportunity to really provide additional service for people. People love it when we check in and see if they're doing okay. And, if maybe what we ought to do for December is call every single person we sold a house to this year and just check in. How's the house? Anything I can help you with? Any problems that maybe you need assistance with? That'd be a wonderful phone call to make here between now and the end of the year. The other thing is, if we get involved in making these contacts proactively, it'll reduce the number of calls coming in that have the potential to interrupt our day. Take control of your calendar. And then, of course, these kinds of calls have amazing potential to generate referrals. And it's just a reminder for people that you are their source of real estate information. And, when we talk about who is the best source of referrals, we think that it's our active clients. And the picture on the screen there is an illustration of the reticular activating system. It's known as the reticular formation of the human brain. And this reticular activating system simply allows people to focus. And when your clients are involved in a real estate transaction, they're focused on real estate. And as a result, it gives them an opportunity to refer you because they get involved in a lot of real estate conversations. And let's remember that everybody knows at least 4 people who are going to move this year. So staying in touch with folks it's a really good idea. And of course, when our current buyers and sellers show up, the mindset is my next transaction is embedded in this current transaction. So here's the idea. Provide favorable service, do a fabulous job, do something memorable, and that will encourage people to provide you with a referral before the end of the current transaction. Here's maybe a bit of a visualization or a metaphor that we haven't used before, but I think it's really good. If you've been on a carousel at the fair, or you've been to been to some kind of a theme park or something, those carousels, people get on and it goes round and round. And people have these carousels in their life. They have a carousel of family and friends. These are people that they hang out with. And they have a different carousel of people that they work with, or people that they play golf with, or go on vacation with. And so when we engage with people and build relationships, what happens is they allow us to step onto their carousel of like their family and friends. And then this gives us access to those people by staying in touch with them. So this is how we can leverage our database and build an opportunity for ongoing referrals. And then, of course, we've got a 5-step calling process. When we make these calls to stay in touch, we're on item number 1 of our 5 ways to generate referrals. So we always want to include a couple of forward questions when we make these calls. And the reason for that is that's how we identify change, and that's where the potential for leads and referrals can come from. These calls don't have to last 15 or 20 minutes. A couple of minutes is good. And this is a wonderful system that allows us to stay on track, and people really appreciate these kinds of calls. All right, so item number 1 is make sure that we're in flow with the people who know us, like us, and trust us. Item number 2 on our top 5 for generating more referrals is let's make sure that we have a process that reminds people that you will make them look good if they refer you. And this research was done a number of years ago. And it's like, well, why do people make referrals? And it turns out there's one primary reason, and that is we can refer a movie or a restaurant or a hairdresser. We can refer people to a church or a school, daycare, those kinds of things. And what this research indicated was the primary reason people make referrals is that they think it'll make them look good. And so if I come to Indianapolis, sometime next year, and I'm there, and Mary and I are there for 3 or 4 days, I may ask you all to refer me to a good restaurant. Well, if you have a restaurant that and sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not. In other words, it's not consistent. You probably won't refer that restaurant to us, because if we go on the wrong night and we have bad service or the food's bad, you won't look good. And that's the point. So here's the question. The question is, in our real estate business, what's it going to take to make people have confidence that you will make them look good if they make a referral? All right. Now, here's the thing. A lot of realtors get into this sort of a linear thinking that says, well, they'll refer me because they like me. Well, that's okay. But why don't we go beyond that? Because they like a lot of realtors. The research is most Americans know a total of 12 realtors. So the idea that we're going to depend on people liking us to get referrals, that makes us just one of 12. The real secret here is, do we have a process, and are we a real pro so that they have confidence that we'll look good? And certainly the way we dress is one indication. If people will have confidence that we will make them look good. So things have gotten very casual in our society, even more so in the last 9 months or so. So let's make sure we bring our A game, because it has an part of the outcome of whether or not people are willing to refer us. And folks, there's nothing wrong with feeling comfortable around our friends, family members, clients. Gosh, the ideal situation is that our clients become our friends, and there's nothing wrong, with being casual there. But in a business environment, let's make sure that we're on top of things. We bring our A game. All right, so let's make sure that we convince people that we will make them look good if we receive their referrals. All right. So number 3 on our list of top 5 is this idea of providing fabled service. All right. So here's the definition of fabled service. It's some kind of a wow experience that people say, man, that was spectacular. That was fun. That was incredible. I'd like to tell somebody else a story about that so they can have the same experience that I did. So one of the ways to provide a wow level of service is to make sure that people know that we put their interests ahead of our own. And that seems like it's obvious, and I'm sure It's something that's totally natural for you, but let's make sure that it's about them and it's not about us. All right. And one of the things that we can do to provide a wow level of service is manage what we call moments of truth. And we'll spend a couple of minutes on this. All right. Another way to provide fabled service is having a great system for ongoing communication with people. Folks, in all of the research, one of the ongoing gripes that both buyers and sellers have about realtors, it shows up in every research study that comes out about realtors, and that is our clients say they'd wish they had more contact with us, not less. All right, so that's critical. And another way to provide fabled service is to make sure that when we're in a transaction, we're calling people first. We're not waiting for them to call us. That's really critical. And then this concept of hospitality. So providing customer service is something that we do for someone. Hospitality is how we make them feel. So gosh, which of those two is more important, service or hospitality? Well, they're both important, but how we make them feel is significantly more important than the service that we provide. All right, so we got to do both. So this guy, Jan Carlson, wrote a book. This was a number of years ago called Moments of Truth. And Jan Carlson was the CEO of a major airline that was based in Europe. And he went through all the research in the airline industry of all the moments of truth and how to manage those situations with their customers. And he defined a moment of truth as when the customer touches your process. And so in real estate, there's all kinds of times when our clients touch our process. Here's just a quick example. So if we get a call for a listing opportunity, the first moment of truth is when that client makes a call to us. And then the question is, okay, do I have a system to manage that very first moment of truth when people make that first phone call? All right. So we have a thing called a pre-listing interview that will help you manage that first moment of truth. Second thing is going to be the minute we go out to the house. How do we handle that when we get out to the house and walk through the property? How do we handle the market analysis and talking about pricing and commissions and that sort of thing? And how do we handle negotiations and staging the property? And so there's all these moments of truth that need to be managed. So, one thing that I think would be a good idea is to just take a look at the seller process and the buyer process and try to identify maybe the 5 or 6 most important moments of truth, and then ask ourselves, do I have a system or a process to make sure that these things get covered properly? All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is consistency. And this is one that I think we overlook sometimes. And this has to do with process, folks. And that is, do people come to the conclusion, if they work with you, do they conclude that you have a process, or are we just kind of on accident? Do we just kind of wing it? And every buyer or seller interaction is a little bit different. This woman, Debbie Mayer, wrote a book called The End Result. And Debbie is a nationally known speaker on customer service. She says that she says you can't build a wow experience or a fabled service unless you have a process. All right. So with Ninja, we are obsessed with process. And on the screen there, just a few examples of some of the things that are part of the Ninja system. And we think that in today's market especially, here's the deal. Properties move quickly when they come on the market. In most cases, multiple offers are fairly commonplace, and it's maybe the best sellers market we've had in the last 40 years in the real estate business, at least in most markets. So you get a listing, it goes under contract within 24, 48 hours. You congratulate yourself for being a fabulous realtor, when in fact, if we're going to be truthful, it's the market that sold that house, not you. All right. So the idea here is, can I have a process that when I have a listing, and Amy, this is what you were visiting about at the start of the call this morning, is do I have a process that will be able to communicate to a seller? You can say, Mr. Seller, the key here is not selling your house. Anybody can sell your house in this market. The key is, can we position your property so you can get the high end of the range, so we can give you your best walking away money opportunity. This is not about throwing the property on the internet in order to get 2 or 3 offers. This is a scientific process that sellers will conclude, man, that guy is a real pro. She really knows what she's talking about. And this is really the difference between being on accident or being on purpose in your business. All right. So 2 illustrations here. The top one, the squiggly lines, that represents being on accident, the straight line being on purpose. And you notice, of course, on accident and on purpose, they both get from point A to point B, but the on accident realtor, it just takes longer. On purpose gives us the potential. See, in the market today, it's not about selling the house. Anybody can sell the house. It's the process that we want to follow that gets the leads and referrals after the transaction's over. That's the key. All right. Here's an example. So last year, right before the pandemic set in and the lockdowns occurred, one of the last things that occurred was the leading real estate companies of the world conference that was held in Las Vegas last year at the Wynn Resort. So we were there, and one of the things that we noticed is that the Wynn, of course, is a spectacular hotel, fabled service in every sense of the word in most cases. We were watching how people were checking into that hotel, and when you go to the Wynn, you can rent a room at the convention rate of $250 a night or whatever it is, but they also have rooms that are $3,000, $10,000, $50,000. What we noticed is it didn't matter who was checking in. The folks behind the counter, they had the same process for every single person checking into that hotel. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we have a process like that we go through when we get referred to a buyer or a seller, so people can conclude that I'm a pro, that I actually have a process? So a consistency is important. It doesn't matter if it's the starter home on the lower end of the market or the high-end properties. Here's a quick story about that. Our friend Scott Mathias is a realtor in the Denver area. Scott is a former president of the Colorado Association of Realtors and an amazing guy, doing well over $1 million in gross commission income every single year. And he told us the story a couple of years ago. John Malone is one of the wealthiest men in America. He happens to live in Denver, runs a company called Liberty Media. You may recognize that name, but John Malone is one of the founders of the cable television industry. John Malone and his company based in Denver were responsible for some of the very first cable television systems that were put in place 30, 40 years ago. And is an amazing guy. So here's the story. John Malone is driving to the airport. His driver is taking him to the airport, and they drive by a commercial property that John Malone owns. He says, "We own that property, don't we?" The driver says, "Yes, Mr. Malone, you own that property." He says, we have some vacancies there. We don't need that property. Would you do me a favor? See if you can find someone. Let's move that property. Let's go ahead and sell it. He says, "I've got just the guy for the deal. I know the realtor to help you." He says, "Fantastic." And the driver called Scott Mathias. Well, the reason that the driver knows Scott Mathias is because Scott, who does well over $1 million a year in gross commission income, helped this limo driver buy his very first property. It was a condominium on the lower end of the market in Denver. Scott's not too busy to help anyone buy a property. And Scott stayed in touch with this guy, and he wasn't too busy to stay in touch even with the lower end of the market. And as a result, that relationship with this gentleman, who happened to be the limo driver for Mr. Malone, ended up being the connector. And now Scott Mathias has John Malone for a real estate client, and millions and millions of dollars of real estate transactions have occurred as a result. the power of consistency that everyone in our database we stay in touch with, regardless of the price point. And the mindset, of course, is our next transaction is embedded in the current transaction. What do I have to do? See, so many realtors, folks, they get a referral and they start counting the commission check before they even get the property on the market. And the mindset is, well, how do I get this deal closed so I can get paid? Why don't we have a little bit higher minded mindset here that says it's a foregone conclusion that I'm going to sell this property or help someone buy. The real question is, what do I need to do that'll be so impressive that this person will want to send me a lead or referral before the end of the transaction? You know, that takes our responsibilities of helping people to a whole new level. This is not about helping them move. This is about a process that convinces people that you are their source of real estate information, and that's where the leads and referrals come from. All right, so consistency is absolutely essential there. Our last idea is making sure that we have a system to thank people properly when they do give us a referral and stay in touch. All right, so here's a little system. If you've been in the Ninja installation, you know about this system, but it's in your handout. And it's just a simple system to stay up to date on where referrals come from. So you've got the referral on the left-hand column. That's who you're going to be working with. Who sent you the referral is in the second column. And then you've got 6 places there to mark down how we've stayed in touch with the person who sent us the referral to remind them and let them know that you're taking care of that person that they referred you to. This is a system primarily for your database referrals, but it could also be referrals that come from other realtors. And the place where we want to make a point here is that this isn't just about thanking someone and sending them a gift card or some kind of a gift after the closing. It's 2-3 times during the transaction when we're working with that person that got referred to us, we can just update the person who sent the referral on the progress of the transaction. All right, so here's a quick story. Now, this happens to be a realtor referral, but I think it still makes the point. So Mary and I had a family friend. In fact, really, she's sort of extended family, and she was going to purchase a condo in the community south of us here in Longmont, Colorado. Well, Mary and I don't really work in that market. We're not as familiar. We thought, well, it'd be best if we would, even though she's a family friend, we wanted to refer to someone who's more familiar with that market. So we referred her to another realtor at our company. Her name is Christine. And Christine happened to live in Longmont and very familiar with that market. So we referred our family friend to Christine. All is good. At the end of that first week, after we made that referral, we got an email from Christine. She says, Don, on the email, here is everything that's happened so far this week. She outlined that she had hooked up our family friend with an appropriate lender. They had gotten together in person and gone through the 10-step buyer process. They were going to start looking at homes that weekend. And I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. And in the email, what she said is she always referred to this person as your client. Your client that I'm taking care of here, here's what we've done so far. And interestingly, every single Friday afternoon until the transaction was complete, I got an update from Christine about what was happening with the client that I had referred to her. And she didn't refer to it as now that it's her client, she referred to it as our client. I thought that was just absolutely fantastic. So at any moment, we knew exactly what was happening with that family friend, and she found her a home. Now, that's going to the next level. Here's the question. Do you think because of that method of communication and staying in touch and following up, do you think that Christine's gotten any additional referrals from us when it comes to that? Of course she has. She gets all of our referrals for that geographic area because she does such a great job. She's a total pro in every sense of the word. That's what we're talking about, is having a system of following up. Doesn't have to be another realtor. You can do the same thing with the people who have referred clients to you. And then, of course, we can do the easy thing by sending a note, within 20, we like the idea of sending a note within 24 hours of getting a referral, and maybe put a little, gift card to Starbucks or a car wash or something simple in there to thank people for just sending the name. Doesn't have to turn into a transaction, right? So those are our 5 ideas. Just as a recap here, folks, relationships don't come from luck. Referrals don't come from luck. They come from relationships, all right? And relationships built on a system of staying in touch with people. And we think staying in flow is key to referrals. All right, so there are your 5 ideas. And we think this is a fantastic time of year to make some progress in our business. Now, here's a couple of things before we're finished. Number 1, take some time off and enjoy yourself in the holidays. It's been an incredibly hectic year. So make sure that you get refreshed and get renewed and be healthy and all of that. Be prepared for next year. But at the same time, let's not miss on this opportunity, because this holiday time is a fabulous opportunity to connect with people, especially folks maybe we haven't been in touch with for a while. So let's use our time wisely, and we're going to wish you all the best during this holiday season. And Amy, we're going to turn the screen back over to you.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate all your great ideas. We had a great idea from Judy in the chat. Judy, you want to tell everybody about what you did with your flyer?
There we go. Yes, I actually had my title company do a flyer for me that has information about the homestead exemption and the mortgage exemption, and gave contact information for all the counties in our geographic area so that they could make sure that they meet the deadline of December 31st. I sent them an email, any buyer I had, to remind them of that. And then I also did a text message after it to let them know. I just sent them an email they really need to look at. I also remembered a couple of people that had called me for referrals about refinancing. So I sent it to them too, because when you refinance, that mortgage exemption drops off. So it may not be a bad thing to send to all your clients, that remind them. I know a lot of people refinance this year. Just make sure that your mortgage exemption is still on there. And I think I've got 2 referrals out of it. So
that's great.
Judy, that is just fantastic. Amy, sorry I interrupted you there. That's just a super idea. And the thing I like about it is the timing associated with that information. I mean, how many people have refinanced this year and could forget, that they have to renew that homestead exemption? So that is incredibly valuable. That is doesn't surprise me that you've gotten referrals from that kind of an activity. That's really great.
I think it proves you're their realtor for life and their trusted advisor. And sometimes it's a little easier to pick up the phone when you do have something like that that's very specific, especially for some personality types. It's just easier to have a specific purpose. Whereas for some of us, Deb, we're okay just calling and saying, hey, how are you feeling today? It just depends on who you are, right? So, well, Dawn, does anybody else have any questions or comments for Dawn? Okay. We're going to be on here next Wednesday, living with purpose like a ninja. I think that's pretty close, right, Dawn?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about mindset and making sure we got our thinking right before we head into next year. Should be fun.
That's great. And there'll be lots of ninja opportunities for all of you in 2021. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to be ready to say goodbye to 2020. So have a really great day, everybody. We'll see you next week. And Don, I'm sure I speak for all 110 of us. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And thank you for taking care of 500 families this afternoon who I'm sure are going to need your help.
Thank
So
you,
good to see you
Don.
guys.
Thank you.
God bless you. Everybody stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Take
Be
care.
well.
Bye, everybody. Take care.